Hollywood is grieving Matthew's passing. When did you first hear about his passing?
Well, I first heard I'm doing a play in Kansas City, and I was just getting ready to go on stage Saturday night, and I saw it pop up on my phone when I was in the dressing room. And I tried to hide it from the other cast members because I knew they'd be upset. I was upset, but, have to go out and do a comedy. Hello. And I'm sure Matthew felt that same way many times. So it was very depressing to see. I was hoping that it was wrong. You know how sometimes these things can come out and they're not right. So that's how I found out.
Hi.
Chandler!
Mom, thanks for wearing something.
What was it like working with him, playing his mother?
Well, it was very interesting playing his mother because it was such a fraught relationship. So, I know the first time we were working together, just trying to work through, who are these people? Why are they so messed up? But I think the mother's ongoing anxiety and anger at the father for leaving them had spilled over a lot into Chandler's life. And so we would talk about that, the reaction to that and his quirky reaction to his weird mother, who all of his friends had learned about sex by reading her novels. So always embarrassing for a young man.
Also, what was it like for you to be on that set with Matthew and the others? Because, let's be honest, you're Morgan Fairchild. When you popped up on the screen, everybody's like, oh my God, his mom is Morgan Fairchild. Wow.
Well, I think that's kind of what they were thinking of when they cast me. But it was a lot of fun. I that first day on the set, Matthew, as was his wont, came bounding over and said, "Oh, you won't remember me, but I used to visit you on Flamingo Road in Falcon Crest with my dad." And I said, "Oh, who's your dad?" And he said, "John Bennett Perry." I said, "Oh my God, you're that little kid that I used to see on the set." And so right away, we kind of had that familial kind of bond. Right away, I felt like I knew him better than I actually did at the time. But also, just he was so interesting to work with because he would always come up with the weird, offbeat way of phrasing something that made it even funnier than it was on the page. The scripts were always really funny, but then he would come up with ways to make it even funnier with his double takes and his little tweak of a word here and there. And it was always fun watching him try to deal with Nora and just trying to work through everything, trying to deal with his mother.
This is kind of embarrassing, but occasionally after I've been intimate with a man.
Now, why would you say that's embarrassing?
I just get this craving for Kung Pao chicken.
That's too much information!
There was this explosion that happened with that show, that all of a sudden it went crazy. It was everywhere. What do you remember about that, and what was it like for you and Matthew?
Well, it was interesting. When they offered me the show, it wasn't a huge hit yet, but I'd seen it and I liked it. I thought the young actors all were very good individually, and that they were really good at ensemble work, which is kind of two different talents. And I thought the show had a lot of potential. Was I right? And so I was excited to be part of it. But then when it really took off, it was kind of amazing. In this business, you never know the ones that are going to be hits. You do work, and then when something takes off and becomes kind of a cult classic or whatever, like I did with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Who knew that would take off? And and you do things, and then you see what happens. And but I do remember after I'd been on the show, because they did promote it very heavily with me, and I ran into the two Matthews, Matt and Matthew Perry, in a Blockbuster, oddly enough, on Ventura Boulevard. I guess their lunch hour. And they came running up to me and did this big sandwich of me and said, "You got us in the top 5. You got us in the top 5." And we're jumping up and down like a bunch of kids in a Blockbuster.
Wow.
And they were always so dear. I remember one time just driving up on Barra Boulevard, and I guess Matt LeBlanc had gotten out of work and pulled up alongside of me, and I kind of honked at him, and we were waving at each other like mad people on the freeway. But it was just the fun of the whole cast, the way they cared about each other, which is not something sometimes you see happen on shows when they become hits. People can get snippy and jealous and all of that. And they really bonded together. I think it was a nice thing for that cast that the fame and the sudden kind of launch into the stratosphere, instead of splitting them apart, it bonded them together, that they were all in it together. And I think that helped all of them individually to weather the storm, as it were.
I agree with you. It was quite a storm. What do you remember about the little boy that you saw on set on Falcon Crest and when he was visiting his dad? What do you remember about that kid?
Well, I mean, he was friendly, but he also seemed kind of shy. And, little did I know that he would grow up to be, that I'd grow up to work with him. Mainly, I was so fond of his father, John Bennett Perry, who had a recurring part on Falcon Crest and Flamingo Road. So we saw him often. And, when he would bring his son, it was always kind of a treat. I liked having kids on the set. They were always kind of fun, added a little juice to the day, so it's not all the same old, same old. And kind of trying to show him around and talk to him and find out what he was doing and everything. And he said he wanted to be an actor, but who knew?
What was your relationship with Matthew today? What was it like? Did you ever have a chance to speak to him?
Well, I hadn't talked to him in a long time at this point. Once the show ended, as often happens, people kind of go their separate ways and have separate interests and things. I ran into him once in a while out and about town, and he was just such a lovely person. He was a kind person, and I was so proud of him for how he'd come through some of these hard times and had turned to trying to help other people, which I think is kind of the legacy that he would like to be known by, that not only was he a friend, but that he would be there for you. As the song goes, I'll be there for you, that he was there for other people. And I think that was one of the great things about him, not only his great talent as an actor, but especially as a comedian, his incredible timing, what a joy it always was to work with him, but also his giving nature, the fact that he was always trying to give to other people. I think part of his big legacy will be the fact that he did seem to help so many people on a road to recovery. Even since I've just been online this morning, I've been having people DM me on social media saying, he inspired me to I never met him, but he inspired me to get sober. And he leaves that legacy as well as the great legacy of his work as an actor and as a comedian.